The DCU is slowly starting to get into the process of laying the foundation to introduce the rest of DC's Trinity after the success of Superman, as well as continuing to cement the character of Superman as the frontrunner of the universe. How and when we'll see Batman and Wonder Woman in full has been the talk of the town, from fan castings to design choices and what potential projects they could be introduced in if it's not their own solo movies. Given what we do know about the Trinity in this universe, could all of this be a recipe for disaster and another DCEU situation? Or does James Gunn have something up his sleeve to ensure that these heavy hitters are treated with the utmost care and respect to better resonate with general audiences? One thing I can say with confidence is that Superman fans are finally eating good after the neglect of the character from the previous regime at Warner Brothers during the DCEU era. It's been made clear that Superman will be a leading figure given that he was the center focus of the first theatrical DCU movie.
Superman is the OG of superheroes. It had been over a decade since there was a standalone Superman movie.
He's an incredibly important character to DC. We've seen a lot more of Wonder Woman and Batman over the past few years than we have of Superman.
The intro that plays for every canonical DCU project features the Golden Age Superman before switching to the DC Studios logo. I know some people hoped that it would change for each project depending on the character, so creating unique animations for Batman and Wonder Woman whenever their projects come out as examples. That won't be the case, as Gunn has stated that Superman is essentially the MGM lion for DC Studios, and there will be a different intro for Elseworlds projects, but it won't be anything major. There's a plan behind the scenes to develop multiple projects and sequels centered on the Man of Steel, which Gunn has dubbed the Superman saga.
I am thinking, well, what is the long-term story I'm telling here? What is the story that I'm going to tell about Superman over 4 movies? What is the story I'm telling about Peacemaker over, a number of different media? What is it that's the long-term story for these characters, and how does that intertwine with the stories of other characters, whether it's Harcourt or Eagly or, Batman, who we haven't even met yet?
The focus on Superman isn't just limited to the character himself, rather there's an effort to also have projects centered on his supporting cast. Case in point, the Jimmy Olsen Show in development, a true crime docu-series hosted by Jimmy Olsen, involving him and the Daily Planet crew tackling cases on a variety of superpowered villains, with the first season focusing on Gorilla Grodd.
Barack Obama, it will almost be an honor to kill you.
One of the things I wanted to see more of in Superman was the Daily Planet crew and their dynamics within the office, so this show would be the perfect avenue to explore that. I mean, Ron Troop didn't have any lines of dialogue in the movie. Supergirl is set to be the first theatrical DC movie of 2026. Not only will we get to learn more about who she is as a character, her upbringing, and what happened to her on Krypton, we'll also learn more about her and Superman's Kryptonian heritage, which could be further explored in Man of Tomorrow. Since Brainiac is the main villain, it's possible the movie will showcase the bottled city of Kandor. Man of Tomorrow is the next movie James Gunn is gearing up for, with production set to start around April. The story centers on Lex Luthor and Superman having to set aside their differences to team up to fight Brainiac. A lot of Gunn's interest stemmed from wanting to delve more into Lex's character and show a different side of him.
It's a story of, it's Lex and Clark, it's the two of them trying to get along, maintains, the things about them we like and we hate, But I listen, I relate to Lex. It was always, for me, the thing I was always wanting to do was to make more of a Lex movie, because I really relate to Lex, as awful that is to say. And I'm not, shooting innocent people. But his sort of ambition and his obsession, his drive. And I also, in some ways, relate to the naivete of Superman. I relate to this belief in the goodness of human beings, which I do, and his simple, Midwestern values, which it's where I'm from and how I look at life. So they're both sides of myself, and I think that this movie is an expression of that.
I'm glad we're getting things that haven't been done before in a live-action theatrical Superman movie. Brainiac is finally the main villain after years of projects getting cancelled, with him set to be the center antagonist. Lex Luthor gets to wear his iconic power armor from the comics, and he and Superman get to team up to take down a larger threat. While we have a good idea of what's to come for upcoming Superman-related projects, there still remains the question of how exactly Gunn intends to handle the greatest character in fiction in his wider universe.
Oh my god, bro, is dick riding all you do?
Like Superman and the Metropolis-based characters, different sides of Gotham City and the Batman mythos will be explored in live-action DCU projects. The major difference being that the Clayface movie is set to release before The Brave and the Bold, the introduction to the DCU's Batman as of right now. It may seem unorthodox to have a movie like Clayface released before a Batman movie, but Clayface wasn't intended to be a part of the Gods and Monsters slate. There were no plans to make a Clayface movie until Mike Flanagan came in with a really good pitch and an even better script. The motto at DC Studios is to only greenlight projects when scripts are complete and satisfactory. It's possible Batman could make a cameo in Clayface, as it's said to take inspiration from the Feet of Clay 2-part episode from Batman the Animated Series, but I don't think that's likely given that Clayface has already wrapped filming, and I don't think DC Studios is anywhere close to casting their new Batman. Best case scenario would be a silhouette or shadowy figure like in the Creature Commandos episode. Even though we won't see Batman in full, we'll definitely get our first proper look at the DCU's version of Gotham City. I think it's imperative to create a Gotham that is visually distinct and doesn't look like a generic city akin to The Dark Knight. It'd be kinda cool if they combined the gothic architecture of Tim Burton's Gotham with the more vivid, larger-than-life city seen in the Joel Schumacher movies, leaning more into that level of fantasy since this is a very lived-in, fantastical universe filled with metahumans. I think Gotham's visual style in Batman Arkham Knight has a good mixture of gothic, art deco, and modern styles. Despite what some people are led to believe, the Batman and Wonder Woman scripts are a top priority at DC Studios. If they mess up either one of those movies, especially The Brave and the Bold, it's wraps. You might as well not even go forward with future installments.
There's no way out of this one. You're done.
It's especially going to look bad if The Brave and the Bold ends up being a stinker or mediocre when compared to Matt Reeves and his work on the Batman Part 2, if that ends up doing well. Which is why they're taking their time to make the best Batman film script they can. Since there have been so many theatrical iterations of the character over the years, it's logical to assume that the Bat family is the key to having a Batman that stays true to the character, while also offering something that'll stand apart from the rest. I'm sick of the Batman is a brooding loner allegations from the general public. The heroes in the Bat family are fundamental in expanding the Batman mythos and developing him as a prominent character. You're already seeing the push of Bat family characters in future projects like Dynamic Duo, a story centered on the early friendship between Dick Grayson and Jason Todd. The animation style of Dynamic Duo is a combination of miniature models, puppetry, and computer animation. It's currently not set in the DCU, but Gunn has expressed his interest in integrating the story into the main canon, while also acknowledging how that might not be possible due to the very nature of the narrative. So there's a lot of pressure in making another Batman adaptation that has to benefit the wider universe, which comes with a wide range of reactions from people online. I mean, hell, I've already seen people switching up on Andy Muschietti directing The Brave and the Bold. Some people swore it was going to be a guaranteed disaster because he directed The Flash, but now they're singing a different tune because of the success of It Welcome to Derry, a show Andy Muschietti developed alongside Barbara Muschietti and Jason Fuchs, with Muschietti also directing a few episodes. One thing I've liked about the DCU so far is how it isn't afraid to cast lesser known actors for big roles. Characters like Superman and Jon Stewart had a wide pool of actors audition and screen test. The process behind choosing an actor wasn't based on how well known they were prior to their audition or their celebrity status, which is why I find it baffling when people say things like, "Batman should only be played by an A-lister."
Oh shit. You're stupid.
That's probably the most boring mentality you can have when casting any superhero. Ah yes, let's only cast A-list actors instead of auditioning and screen testing known or lesser known talent and selecting whoever actually best fits the role. I mean, look at the most recent casting with Brainiac and Man of Tomorrow. Not many people have heard of Lars Eidinger before the announcement, and the performance that got him the role wasn't from some movie or TV show, it was his audition. Sure, actors who have played Batman in previous iterations were known, but I don't know if I'd call them A-listers before they got the role. At least with The Brave and the Bold, we know the basic story premise. Damian Wayne being introduced to Batman and the Bat family, with inspirations drawn from Grant Morrison's run. With the story or premise for the Wonder Woman movie, however, we pretty much know nothing. All I can tell you is that it's being written by Ana Nogueira, the writer of the upcoming Supergirl movie. Supergirl wasn't intended to be the second DCU movie, but apparently the script was good enough to get the green light as soon as it did. After that script was completed, the writer was working on a Teen Titans movie before Gunn said, "Hey, I'm gonna need you to put a pause on that and shift your talents over to this Wonder Woman movie." Everybody's always asking James Gunn the same repetitive questions about the DCU Batman, when interviewers really need to start pressing this nigga on some of the details of this Wonder Woman script. According to him, it's actually a lot easier to figure out what to do with Wonder Woman since there haven't been as many portrayals of her, which in turn makes it less complicated to offer something that differs from the DCEU version.
Are we anywhere on like a Wonder Woman script? Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You feel like there's a take, there's a direction.
Yes.
That feels distinct from what we've seen before.
Yeah, very. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm very, very excited about Wonder Woman right now.
Even though we know nothing about this upcoming portrayal of Wonder Woman, some people have already made assumptions about what Diana's origins are going to be based on pretty flimsy evidence. A couple of months ago, James Gunn shed light on a video from Go Read Some Comics with Jenna that centered on Brainiac. One of the talking points in that video was the concept of fandom flanderization, where certain fandoms become hyperfixated on only wanting characters to be portrayed in a certain way. In the case of Brainiac, this has led people to flatten him into the single archetype of a maniacal cosmic tyrant, ignoring the many different versions of the character that have appeared in the comics over the years. This kind of hyperfixation is set to risk diminishing the enjoyment of stories that diverge from audience expectations. The examples Gunn used to convey this on a Threads post were Superman being seen as all-powerful, the yellow oval on Batman's chest, and Diana being molded from clay. This has led many to believe that he favors the origin of Diana being the biological daughter of Zeus. I don't think that's the takeaway people should have, as I think this is rather an indication of origins not being a prevalent part of DCU storytelling, specifically for the heavy hitters. Gunn has expressed his disinterest in tackling the origins of Batman and Superman, and Wonder Woman's origin is unlikely to be a major focal point of the movie's narrative, considering this is already a lived-in universe. Creature Commandos revealed that in the current timeline, Themyscira is already a known place.
I think people are aware of Wonder Woman. I think there's some belief that it exists, but I don't know how worldwide known it is. James,
I think it's coming at a time at a point in time when people have heard of Themyscira. Now people are starting to believe that it exists, but still some people don't believe the story of, of an island of all women. It's just becoming, people are just becoming aware of it.
It's a real place. We know that now.
I know it's a real place, but what kind of place is it? An island of all women? Come on.
Based on Gunn's comments, I think the contents of her origin will be more dependent on what the writer wants to incorporate, since it's being viewed as something that isn't detrimental to the story being told. That being said, I definitely think that her origins shouldn't be considered on the same level of malleability as the other two examples listed. One is just an aesthetic choice, and the other is the misconception of Superman being this unbeatable, overpowered character. The concept of Queen Hippolyta crafting a human figure that would be granted life dates back to the original Wonder Woman publication in 1942. There have been some differences over the years, but the mere foundation of the origin remained unchanged until the New 52 reboot in 2011, when Brian Azzarello introduced the idea of Diana being the biological daughter of Zeus. Even then, it didn't last that long in the grand scheme of things, as the original origin was eventually restored after the end of the New 52, whereas Batman's chest symbol, for example, has had many different reimaginings over the decades, and preferences vary from person to person. There's also the importance of how much Hippolyta wanted to be a mother and the loving sisterhood behind the Amazons. It makes the character stand out amongst other heroes, and the creation of someone like Wonder Woman, born from a mother's pure love and a connection to divinity, is truly unique to her, further highlighting the independence and self-sufficiency of the Amazons and the roots of Diana's compassion. If it isn't the origin people have reservations about, then it probably has something to do with the height of the actress that'll play her. To clarify, we have no idea who will play Wonder Woman in the DCU as of right now, as there isn't a completed script. But some people want the actress to be taller than Superman because that's what they prefer, I guess? I kind of failed to understand this desire because the only instance I can think of in which she was purposefully drawn to be taller than Superman was in The New Frontier by Darwin Cook. You know, the out-of-continuity Elseworlds book set during the 1950s. I don't know why Gunn and company would limit themselves to only auditioning actresses who are 6'4" or above in height, which is the height of David Cornsweet. Wonder Woman's height in the source material has fluctuated, and she's progressively gotten taller over the decades. The original Golden Age Wonder Woman stood 5 feet 8 inches tall. In the post-crisis era, she was listed as 5'11". In the New 52 and Rebirth, she was stated to be 6 feet tall. And in the current day, she matches Batman in height at 6'2". So she definitely has some height to her, and in no way should they cast a short actress to play her, but at no point has she ever been listed to be 6'3" or above in main continuity, which is the height of Superman in DC Comics. Since James Gunn is the co-CEO of DC Studios, which oversees both animated and live-action shows and movies, including canonical DCU entries and Elseworld stories, I think there should be an initiative to promote Wonder Woman across different mediums, similar to how Batman was featured in gaming, animation, and movies from the late 2000s to mid-2010s. Around the same time frame, you had the Dark Knight trilogy popping off in theaters, the Arkham games by Rocksteady, Lego Batman, and animated shows like Batman the Brave and the Bold and Beware the Batman. One way a character becomes popular is by reaching multiple audiences, building on the success of a single project. One of the biggest mistakes of the previous regime was not capitalizing off the success of the first Wonder Woman movie. You'd think the third highest grossing DCEU movie would spark the development of a few Wonder Woman related projects across television, animation, and gaming. I don't think Wonder Woman exposure should be limited to the DCU. Superman still has an ongoing animated show, My Adventures with Superman, while the DCU version, starring David Corenswet, kicks off the new universe. Batman is, well, he's Batman, so of course he's going to have a multitude of projects going simultaneously. We're also getting 2 live-action Batman with Robert Pattinson and whoever they cast for The Brave and the Bold. Asking for any Wonder Woman projects outside of live-action movies is like asking for spare change around these parts. The show Paradise Lost is still in development as far as we know, but that's set to take place before Diana's birth and is DCU canon. With Batman and Superman currently having ongoing animated shows, we all know by now that a Wonder Woman animated series is long overdue. The creation of DC Studios allows for more coordination and communication amongst the different departments that handle DC projects. So when the new Wonder Woman movie releases, there should be an effort to push her more in the cultural zeitgeist. I'm not even asking for a lot. At the bare minimum, an animated TV show and another ongoing comic title.
I can't eat! I'm broke, nigga! I'm broke! And you got the power to change that, Kev!
That's gonna conclude my yap session for the day. I think there's a bright future ahead in how the big three can get well-crafted stories that surround them in their mythos, with the amount of time taken to make the best scripts possible, while also shedding light on lesser-known characters that have the potential to become fan favorites. DC really has the chance to make the general audience see the IP in a brand new light, undoing years of damage that was done thanks to the incompetence of Warner Brothers in the past decade plus. Best of luck to the new blood, and I'll be keeping an eye out for whatever's in the works.
Goodbye.